And let's get into that game real quick. Browns at Kansas City. Speaking of Pittsburgh holding the L, they might as well have stopped this game in the first quarter, 28-0. If it was Madden, the controllers would have been passed already within 10 minutes. It was like if you blinked, you missed a touchdown almost. It was a crazy experience. In fact, Baker Mayfield, back in, I think, week 15, had a similar outing actually against the Titans, I'm pretty sure it was, where they put up like 35 points in the first half. So we want to sit here and talk about the Kansas City's explosive offense. I also think the Browns offense has a little bit of explosivity to it as well. Luke, let's jump in here. Luke, tell me a little bit about the Browns Chiefs game.
Yeah, when you look at the Browns and what they did against the Steelers, I mean, the Steelers were on a decline the end of the season. I mean, they were undefeated for quite a while, and then they just dropped off. They beat the Colts, but they had to come back and claw their way back into that Colts game. But other than that, I mean, they just had loss. Ooh, nice little Tiger King from Austin down there. But the Steelers were on a decline. The Browns were looking up, and then they just gave them some locker room material to go into that game with. You don't just go in there and give the Browns, who already have a chip on their shoulder, who have already been beaten down by the Steelers so many times, give them more motivation to go out there and beat you. So when Juju said the Browns is the Browns, Baker went out there and showed them. If he had a flag, he would have planted it right there on the Steelers symbol. So I expect them to come out pretty hot in the first quarter. The Chiefs might be a little rusty. They rested their starters for the last game, and they've been off for 2 weeks now. So I think they'll come out a little bit rusty and then come out in the end because they're just a better overall team and better coached. Andy Reid's going to have them prepared, and then Patrick Mahomes, obviously, if he's shaky in the beginning, he'll figure it out, and him and Tyreek and Travis Kelce will put some points on the board.
You know, you mentioned that about the team having the bye week and a little bit of rust, whatever. We saw the Chiefs get a little rusty against the Texans last year. Obviously, that didn't faze them. They came back and won that game by 24 points or whatever it was. But in a year where 7 teams make the playoffs, only 1 team on each side had a bye. So it's almost like there's this feeling that something's got to give. One of these teams, either the Packers or the Chiefs, is going to fall flat. I mean, they're both experienced. They're obviously number 1 seeds for a reason, but we talked about the Rams defense. After the way I saw the Browns offense kind of get clicking, now I'm not going to lie, in the second half, I was a little nervous with the way the Browns offense started to kind of pull back a little bit, but I think the way the Browns can run the ball and move the ball and kill the clock, if they can get a lead in this game, it's going to be difficult to I guess, I don't want to say blow that lead. Nothing's really going to be difficult for the Chiefs per se, but I do see if this game has a weird tempo that keeps the Chiefs out of rhythm, there is a way for the Browns to win this game. I do think the Chiefs will win this game. Ultimately, I think the Chiefs are going to win this game maybe by about 8 to 10 points. But I do think it'll be an entertaining game with the Browns, and I'm happy they're hitting their stride at the right time, like we talked about the Rams as well. Verben, jump on in, man.
I will say that's something also to keep in mind is that the Browns were playing with their backup corners last week. They didn't have Denzel Ward. They were playing with like their 4th string against Pittsburgh's pretty good receivers, I will say. I think Chase Claypool and Juju are pretty good receivers, but obviously the Chiefs are the huge test. But I will be the only one to say, and I'm going to put on the podcast now, Browns all the way. Let's go. I'm gonna give them the benefit of the doubt. But the funniest part about the game last week is, regardless, and my family in Cleveland said the same exact thing. When we went up 28-0 in the first quarter, not a single fan was celebrating that. No one was ready. My dad, I was sweating until that game ended in the fourth quarter there. So I know Cleveland fans are not taking anything for granted, and they're definitely going to go into that game fired up. So I'm excited.
Exactly. Listen, would you take a first half Browns +4?
Browns +4 in the first half?
Yep.
Yeah, I would take that more so than the Browns plus for the game, because I think it might take 1 half for the Chiefs to start clicking.
That's what I'm thinking too.
Yeah, Browns +4 does sound good, especially you got to imagine maybe at halftime this game is 14-10, maybe 14-13, even like a 17-14 game puts you in that realm. So I feel like I said, the Browns have a game under their shoulders or under their belts now. What I will be worried about is the way Ohio State played against Clemson and then played against Alabama. Now, obviously, Alabama's crazy and really good. But what I will be afraid of is, was that game against the Steelers their Super Bowl? Was that all they were looking at? Did they overlook anything after the Steelers game? I don't want them to lose that energy or that juice. I want them to kind of have that us against the world mentality, not just against the Steelers, but against the rest of the NFL. Let's be real. If it wasn't for the Steelers sitting their starters in Week 17, we very well could have been talking about the Dolphins playing in the playoffs as opposed to the Browns. So they had a chip on their shoulder. I hope they have that chip on their shoulder. I would go +4 in the first half. What do you guys got?
I just kind of want to piggyback off what you were saying, though, and Verban obviously is going to go for the Browns. But this is a game where it's like the Chiefs aren't nearly as dominant. We were talking about this last year, or not last year, earlier at work, Justin, is that they're not nearly as dominant on the field as they were last year, despite their record. They've been in a lot of closer games. And it really just takes the Browns getting out to a quick lead, and that, the best way to beat these guys, like these top tier quarterbacks in certain years, is keep them off the field. And the Browns can do that. So that's why it should be scary for Chief fans. But when you can score as fast as they can, then that's where they're going to be able to stay in the game if they get behind.
There's a crazy stat I saw today was that the Chiefs have only had one game where they scored 40 points or more, and the Browns have had 4 games where they scored 40 points or more.
There you go. Baker's better.
You never know.
Just kidding. That's not my actual thought.
Yeah, well, let's be real. The only actual loss by the Chiefs this year was that 40-34 loss to the Raiders. But that being said, from the Panthers game to Week 16, the Chiefs won every single game by 7 points or less. And that was wins against the Jets, or not the Jets, the Broncos, the Panthers, and so on. They didn't have convincing wins. And I don't know if the Browns can maybe smell that blood in the water, but something feels off about this Chiefs team, even though they finished 14-2 and really 14-1 with their starters. I don't know if it's because the expectations for them are so high that we're kind of almost like one of those Tiger Woods things, right? Like when he only wins one tournament in a year, everyone's like, whoa, what's going on with Tiger? Like the Chiefs are still far and away one of the best teams in the league. But are we discounting their success this year because we've seen them do better? So that's what I'm kind of curious about. They've had a lot of close losses or close wins. Will that catch up to them here in the playoffs?